What defines a leader? Is it their strength, their intelligence, or perhaps their ability to inspire? Or is it something far darker? Leadership, a term that can evoke images of strength, wisdom, and courage, but it can also summon shadows of oppression, cruelty, and fear. Power, the driving force behind leadership, is a double-edged sword. It can build and destroy, inspire and intimidate, free and enslave. Throughout history, we've seen this power wielded in countless ways. Some leaders have used it to uplift their people, to usher in periods of growth and enlightenment. Others, however, have taken a darker path. They've used their power not to serve but to dominate, not to protect, but to harm. Today, we'll be exploring the lives of some of these leaders whose reigns were marked by cruelty and oppression. Join us as we delve into the past to uncover these figures who have left indelible marks on the annals of history. Our journey begins in 16th century Russia with Ivan the Terrible. Crowned as the first Tsar of Russia, Ivan's reign was nothing short of tumultuous. His infamous legacy is often overshadowed by his creation of the oprichnina, a state policy that allowed him to seize lands and execute nobility at will. This policy, marked by a reign of terror and widespread violence, painted a grim picture of Ivan's rule. But Ivan's violent streak didn't stop at the nobility. He is most notoriously known for the murder of his own son, an act that still sends shivers down our spines centuries later. This incident, a product of Ivan's uncontrollable rage, stands as a stark reminder of the terror sown during his rule. Ivan was a man of great contradictions. His reign brought about significant progress for Russia, but it was also marked by horrifying violence. A balance of fear and respect, Ivan the Terrible was indeed a leader who left a chilling mark on history. From Russia, we move to England, where Queen Mary the earned her nickname, Bloody Mary. Ascending to the throne in 1553, Mary was determined to revert England to Catholicism, a faith her father, Henry VIII, had renounced. Her zeal in this mission led to the violent persecution of Protestants, with nearly 300 individuals burned at the stake for heresy in just 5 years. This brutal campaign, now known as the Marian persecutions, was not only driven by religious conviction but also by a political motive to consolidate power. Unfortunately for Mary, her efforts were largely unsuccessful. The country's religious landscape remained predominantly Protestant, and the brutality of her reign only further alienated her subjects. By the time of her death in 1558, her reign had become synonymous with religious intolerance and violence. Mary's reign, though short, was marked by religious persecution and bloodshed. Next, we find ourselves in 19th century Belgium under the rule of Leopold II. A monarch with a ruthless pursuit of wealth, Leopold II exploited the Congo Free State not as a Belgian colony, but as his personal possession. His rule was marked by a brutal system of forced labor. The Congolese were coerced into harvesting rubber, a commodity in high demand during the Industrial Revolution. Failure to meet quotas often led to harsh punishment, sometimes even death. Beyond the economic exploitation, Leopold II's rule was characterized by widespread human rights abuses. His private army, the Force Publique, was notorious for its cruelty, and the population was subjected to beatings, mutilations, and mass killings. In the end, it is estimated that the population of Congo was halved under Leopold's rule, leading to the death of millions. A chilling testament to the horrors of unchecked power, Leopold's brutal reign in Africa left millions dead and a nation scarred. Moving forward to the 20th century, we encounter a name synonymous with cruelty: Adolf Hitler. Rising to power in Germany in the early 1930s, Hitler leveraged economic turmoil and national resentment to fuel his Nazi party's ascent. His charismatic speeches and promises of a brighter future won him the support of many, but the dark underbelly of his intent soon emerged. Under Hitler's regime, the Holocaust, one of the most horrific genocides in human history, took place. 6 million Jews were systematically exterminated, their lives cut short by an unimaginable wave of hate and prejudice. But the carnage didn't stop there. Hitler's aggressive expansionist policies plunged the world into the Second World War, a conflict that claimed an estimated 75 million lives. Cities were leveled, cultures decimated, and countless lives shattered. Hitler's reign of terror resulted in the deaths of millions and left a permanent scar on human history. From Germany, we move east to the Soviet Union under the iron fist of Joseph Stalin. Stalin's reign, lasting from the mid-20s till his death in 1953, is marked by a series of brutal campaigns known as the Great Purges. These were systematic efforts to purge the Communist Party, the military, and other parts of Soviet society from those deemed disloyal, leading to the execution of hundreds of thousands. But the terror didn't end there. Stalin's policies also led to the Holodomor, a man-made famine in Ukraine that caused the death of millions. It was a time when food became a weapon of the state, used to suppress and control. Under Stalin, the Soviet Union was a place of constant fear. It was a society where people lived under the shadow of secret police, censorship, and the constant threat of being labeled an enemy of the state. Stalin's rule was a time of fear, oppression, and death for millions of Soviets. Next, we journey to China, where Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward led to disaster. Mao Zedong, a key figure in the establishment of the People's Republic of China, believed in the power of revolution. Yet his policies often bore catastrophic results. The Great Leap Forward, an ambitious economic plan launched in 1958, aimed to rapidly transform China from an agrarian society into an industrial powerhouse. Yet the plan's implementation was deeply flawed, leading to widespread famine. The Great Chinese Famine, as it came to be known, resulted in the deaths of tens of millions of people, marking one of the deadliest famines in human history. Yet the devastation did not end there. Mao later launched the Cultural Revolution, a campaign that sought to purge traditional elements from Chinese society. The brutal campaign led to widespread violence and societal chaos. Mao's reign led to the deaths of millions and forever changed the face of China. Our journey now takes us to Cambodia, where Pol Pot and his Khmer Rouge ruled with an iron fist. Emerging from the shadows of the Cold War, Pol Pot rose to power in the mid-70s, his reign marked by a chilling vision of an agrarian utopia. His regime, the Khmer Rouge, sought to reshape Cambodia into a classless society through a brutal plan of social engineering. This vision came at a horrifying cost. Intellectuals, city dwellers, and anyone perceived as a threat were systematically purged in what came to be known as the Cambodian Genocide. It's estimated that under Pol Pot's rule, nearly a quarter of the Cambodian population perished through execution, forced labor, starvation, and disease. Even after his downfall, the wounds inflicted by Pol Pot's rule ran deep. The scars of his reign of terror still linger, a haunting reminder of a dark chapter in the nation's history. Pol Pot's reign of terror left a nation in ruins and a people scarred. Next, we move to the Middle East, where Saddam Hussein ruled Iraq with an iron fist. Hussein, seizing power in 1979, imposed his will through a reign of terror that lasted over 2 decades. His rule was characterized by rampant human rights abuses, including arbitrary arrests, torture, and mass executions. Hussein's most notorious act, perhaps, was the use of chemical weapons during the Iran-Iraq War, causing tens of thousands of fatalities, many of whom were civilians. This was not an isolated incident, but part of Hussein's wider strategy of instilling fear and maintaining control. His oppressive rule extended beyond Iraq's borders, as his invasion of Kuwait in 1990 provoked a major international crisis, leading to the Gulf War. This invasion demonstrated Hussein's ambition and his willingness to destabilize the region to assert his power. Saddam's reign was marked by brutality, fear, and a disregard for human life. His legacy serves as a chilling reminder of the destructive power of absolute rule, unchecked. Finally, we journey to North Korea, under the rule of Kim Jong-il. Born in 1941, Kim Jong-il inherited power from his father, founding leader Kim Il-sung, creating the world's first communist dynasty. His reign, which spanned from 1994 to 2011, was marked by a severe famine known as the Arduous March, causing the death of hundreds of thousands of North Koreans. Kim Jong-il's regime was characterized by extreme censorship, indoctrination, and pervasive state surveillance. Human rights organizations reported widespread abuses, including public executions and political prison camps. The North Korean people lived in constant fear, their lives tightly controlled by the state. Under his rule, North Korea became one of the world's most isolated nations. Kim Jong-il prioritized military spending over the welfare of his people, plunging the country further into poverty. His pursuit of nuclear weapons escalated global tensions, casting a dark shadow over his legacy. Kim Jong-il's reign was a time of fear, oppression, and isolation for the North Korean people. From the ancient times to the modern era, these leaders have shown us the dark side of power. They've taught us that power, unchecked, can lead to dire consequences. In examining the lives of Ivan the Terrible, Queen Mary I, and Leopold II, we've seen how power can turn a ruler into a tyrant. Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, and Mao Zedong showed us the darkest corners of the human spirit, where ideology and authority intertwined to birth atrocities. Pol Pot, Saddam Hussein, and Kim Jong-il are stark reminders that even in our recent history, the potential for inhumanity lurks. These leaders, however cruel, offer us invaluable lessons. They underscore the importance of checks and balances in power, the necessity for humanity in leadership, and the dire consequences of turning a blind eye to tyranny. As we reflect on these stories, let us remember that power, in the wrong hands, can lead to unimaginable cruelty.